The silent room studio was quiet, not the usual kind of quiet. This one was heavy, like a storm waiting to burst. The air held something strange. Even the footsteps of the crew seemed softer. Something had changed. Keanu Reeves arrived on set, early as always. He greeted everyone with a small smile and a gentle nod. He didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. They respected him not just as an actor, but as a person. Kind, grounded, real. But today something felt off. He walked toward the dressing rooms and noticed Anna's door was open, the lights off, her chair empty. Her name was still printed on the door, but the energy was missing. It was like a part of the set had vanished without warning. Keanu's brow furrowed slightly. Anna was never late. She was always there before him, sipping her tea quietly, going over her lines. She was focused, kind to everyone, and never complained, not even during the longest shooting days. He asked a crew member casually, "Have you seen Anna?" The man looked away, his expression tight. "You should probably ask the director." Keanu didn't like how that sounded. He walked straight to the director's office, didn't knock, just opened the door and stepped in. Inside, the director, a man in his 50s with a sharp jawline and nervous eyes, was seated at the desk. Flipping through call sheets, he looked up, startled. "Keanu didn't expect you this early?" Keanu didn't waste time. "Where's Anna?" The director hesitated. He adjusted his glasses, stalling. "Listen, Keanu, decisions get made quickly in this business. There were ... creative differences." Keanu didn't blink. "Did she quit?" "No," the director said too fast. "We had to ... replace her." The silence that followed was louder than a scream. "You replaced her overnight?" Keanu asked, voice calm but cold. "Without even a meeting? No discussion?" The director shifted uncomfortably. "We brought in a new actress." The studio wanted a different dynamic. Someone younger. Keanu stood still. His hands were in his jacket pockets. His eyes didn't show anger. They showed something deeper, disappointment. "You didn't tell her, did you?" Keanu said. Slowly, the director didn't answer. Keanu turned around and walked out. Ana de Armas sat on the steps behind her apartment. She hadn't cried the night before when she got the call from her agent. But now, in the early morning light, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She wasn't angry. She was hurt, the kind of hurt that sneaks up on you. She kept thinking was, "I not good enough? Did I mess up? Did anyone stand up for me?" Her phone was silent. No message from the director, no call from the production, nothing. She had worked hard for this role. Trained for months, stayed away from parties, focused every single day. And it was gone, just like that. Then her phone buzzed. It was a message from Keanu. 3 words. "Where are you?" She stared at it. For a moment, she didn't know how to reply. Then she typed back, "Home." 10 minutes later, there was a knock on her door. She opened it, and Keanu stood there. Holding 2 paper cups of coffee, he handed her one. Neither of them said anything for a while. They just sat on the steps. After a long pause, Keanu finally said, "They didn't tell you. I found out this morning." Anna nodded, eyes still puffy. "They didn't even give a reason, just said I wasn't right for the role anymore." Keanu looked at her. "You were right for it. You brought something no one else could." Anna laughed bitterly. "Clearly not." He shook his head. "No. You brought heart. You made every scene feel real. You gave the role something more than performance. You gave it truth." Anna looked away. She didn't want to cry again. Keanu continued. "I told the director if they don't bring you back, I'm out." Anna's head snapped toward him. "But I'm serious," he said softly. "I've worked too long in this industry to stay quiet when someone good gets hurt for the wrong reasons." Anna couldn't believe what she was hearing. Had ever stood up for her like this? Not publicly, not when it mattered. Keanu sipped his coffee. "You deserve better, and if they can do this to you, they can do it to anyone. I won't be part of that." Back at the studio, news was spreading fast. Crew members were whispering about what Keanu said. Some were shocked, others quietly proud. Many had seen talented people thrown aside before, but no one had ever said no to a director like that. Not someone with Keanu's reputation. The director tried to contain the damage. He called Keanu. "Listen, Keanu," he said, trying to sound reasonable. "I respect your loyalty, but this is out of my hands." Keanu answered calmly. "Then it's out of mine too." He hung up. Anna's phone rang again. It was her agent. "What did you do?" The voice was stunned. Keanu just walked off. "Set the internet is already blowing up. They're calling it a protest." Anna's eyes widened. "I didn't do anything." The agent continued, "Well, someone did.
How?
Because now the studio's calling me. They want to talk." Anna was speechless. That night, Keanu posted a single message on his social media. "We don't replace people who give their heart. We honor them." It was shared thousands of times within minutes. Fans began tweeting support for Anna. Old clips from the set resurfaced, showing her hard at work. Interviews where she talked about her love for the role, her commitment, her kindness. People started talking, and suddenly Anna was no longer forgotten. She was everywhere. But behind the screens, she still sat in her small apartment, unsure what the future held. She didn't know if she'd get her role back. She didn't even know if she wanted it anymore. But one thing had changed. Someone had stood up for her, and that, more than anything, reminded her of who she was and what she was worth. The ripple begins. Sana woke up early the next morning. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was racing. She hadn't slept much. Her phone had been buzzing non-stop since Keanu made that post. Messages from fellow actors, makeup artists, even people she hadn't spoken to in years. They all said the same thing. "We're with you." She sat at the edge of her bed, the quiet of the room around her. She didn't feel strong. Not yet. But somewhere deep inside, something had changed. The shame that had started to creep in. It wasn't winning. Not anymore. A message came in. It was from Maria, a lighting assistant who had worked with Anna. "On set, just so you know, most of the crew is backing Keanu. They said if you don't come back, they're walking too." Anna's hand shook slightly. This wasn't just one man standing up for her. It was becoming something bigger at the studio. Chaos had quietly begun. The new actress, a talented newcomer with bright eyes and a soft smile, had arrived that morning. She was nervous. Not because of the cameras, but because of the silence. No one made eye contact. No one greeted her with excitement. The energy on set had shifted. She looked around, confused. Someone finally whispered to her what had happened. She stood frozen. "They replaced Anna overnight," she asked quietly. The assistant nodded. Keanu left because of it. The actress sat down in the makeup chair, but didn't look at herself. In the mirror, she didn't say anything more. She didn't have to. Meanwhile, Keanu wasn't at home. He'd gone somewhere else. A community shelter. He didn't go there for press. He didn't take cameras. He just went because he needed to be around people who reminded him why he started acting in the first place, to tell stories that mattered. An old man recognized him and said, "Hey, you're that guy from the movies." Keanu smiled. "Sometimes," the man laughed. "What brings you here?" Keanu shrugged. "Just needed to be reminded of something." The man nodded. "We all do." Later that afternoon, Anna's agent called again. "You're not going to believe this," she said, almost breathless. "The studio is panicking. Investors are pulling out. Fans are calling for a boycott. They want a statement from you." Anna sat on her couch, curled up with a blanket. She didn't feel powerful. She felt overwhelmed. "I don't want revenge," she said quietly. "I just want to be respected," her agent replied. "Then speak. Your voice matters now more than ever." Anna thought about it. Then she opened her phone and began to type. The post was simple. "I didn't expect this. I didn't expect anyone to notice, let alone care. But I'm grateful. Not because I want the role back, but because no one should be made to feel disposable. Not in any job, not in any life." Within minutes, the message went viral. People from all over the world shared their own stories. About being let go without warning, about being made to feel small, about how one kind word, one person standing up, had made all the difference. Anna didn't read every comment. She couldn't, but one caught her attention. It was from the new actress. "I respect you deeply. I'm stepping away from the role. It's yours. It was always yours." Anna's heart stopped for a moment. Back at the studio, the director sat. In a long meeting with producers, no one was smiling. Everyone looked exhausted. "This was a mistake," one executive said flatly. "We misread the audience. We misread everything." The director rubbed his forehead. "What do we do now?" Someone suggested rewriting the character. Someone else suggested canceling the film altogether. But then a voice from the back of the room, quiet but firm, said, "We bring her back and we apologize." Keanu showed up at Anna's place that evening. She opened the door, and this time, she was the one holding 2 cups of tea. He smiled. "You look stronger today." She laughed softly. "I feel ... less broken." Sat on the steps again. Anna handed him her phone, showing him the post from the new actress. Keanu read it and nodded. "Takes courage to walk away from something offered on a silver plate," Anna agreed. She didn't deserve to be put in the middle. Keanu looked at her. "What will you do if they ask you back?" Anna took a long breath. "I'll go back. But on my terms, not to prove anything. To show them that kindness isn't weakness. And that we're not here to be used and thrown away." Keanu raised his cup slightly. "To resilience." Anna smiled. "To truth." The next day, studio released a public statement. They admitted their mistake. They said Anna would return. They said the production would resume. And that the entire crew had agreed to donate a portion of their upcoming launch profits to a fund supporting young actors from underrepresented backgrounds. Anna didn't expect that, but she welcomed it because this wasn't just about her anymore that night. Nay walked onto the set again. The lights were on. The camera stood ready. But everyone stopped what they were doing when she entered. And then, slowly, they clapped, not because she was famous, not because she was talented, but because she had returned, not as someone defeated, but as someone who had chosen to rise. And standing just behind the camera, Keanu gave her a small nod. She nodded back. They both knew this moment would change more than just a movie. It had already begun changing hearts. Behind the scenes, the camera lights buzzed gently. Cables coiled like vines across the floor. Everything looked the same as before. But Anna knew it wasn't. She stepped onto set that morning not as the girl who had been cast, but as the woman who had been tested. The first scene was quiet. No dialogue, just a slow walk down a hallway, meant to show the character's pain and inner fight. The irony didn't escape her. The director stood to the side, headset on, nervous. He hadn't spoken much to Anna since her return. His apology had been public, yes, but not personal. She didn't expect one anymore. She wasn't here for him. She was here for herself. And for everyone who had ever been told they weren't enough, without a real reason, Keanu stood across from her already. In costume, he gave her a gentle smile, silent reminder. "I'm with you." The camera rolled. Anna walked slowly through the scene. When the director yelled cut, there was no applause. But there was something more powerful. Silence filled with respect. Keanu walked over and whispered, "That was stronger than anything written in the script." Anna blinked, surprised. Was it too much? He shook his head. It was just right. They saw the real you. Over lunch, Anna sat with Maria. It's the lighting assistant who had messaged her earlier. Maria said, "Do you know what happened after you left the first time?" Anna shook her head. The mood shifted, Maria said. People were scared to speak up. A few even got warnings for talking too much about it. But when Keanu spoke, that changed everything. Yana sipped her tea slowly. "I was afraid everyone would forget." Maria smiled. "How could we? You treated every crew member like family, even the new guy who spilled coffee on your shoes." Both laughed. Then Maria leaned closer. "A lot of us have been quiet for too long. It's watching people get replaced, pushed aside, used. You made us feel like it's okay to speak, that it means something." Anna didn't know what to say, so she just reached out and held Maria's hand for a moment. Later that evening, as they prepped the night scene, the director approached Keanu. He cleared his throat. I owe you an apology. Keanu glanced at him. I'm listening. Shouldn't have let the studio pressure me into dropping Anna, he admitted. I've been in this industry long enough to know better. Keanu said nothing for a moment. Then he replied, the problem isn't that you listened to pressure. It's that you forgot the difference between being in charge and doing the right thing. The director nodded slowly. I won't forget again. Keanu turned to walk away, but then paused. If you're serious about making this right, he added, you'll support her even when the cameras stop rolling. Meanwhile, Anna sat on a quiet bench at the back of the set. Stars were visible. Dim above the city glow, the young actress who had stepped away from the role found her there. She approached gently. Hi, is it okay if I sit? Anna smiled. Of course. They sat in silence for a moment. The actress finally said, I just wanted to say, thank you. You could have hated me, but you didn't. Anna turned to her. You didn't do anything wrong. You were thrown into a storm. You walked away from something most people would have chased. It takes more strength than people realize. The girl's eyes watered. My agent was furious. Said I'd regret it. Anna smiled gently. You won't. Not in the long run. The girl looked away thinking. I've watched this industry change people. Make them cold. But you and Keanu, you remind me it doesn't have to. Anna looked up at the stars. No, it doesn't have to. The next morning, a small article appeared in an independent film journal. It wasn't flashy. No screaming. Headlines. But the story was clear. How a silent protest shook a powerful studio and brought empathy back into focus. It included quiet interviews with crew members, anonymous quotes from background actors, messages of support from stunt coordinators, costume designers, even assistants who were never seen on screen. The story wasn't just about Anna anymore. It was about the industry and about how one voice followed by another had turned silence into strength. A week passed. Filming continued. Tension faded. Something new was growing on set. Kindness. The makeup team joked again. The costume team played music while working. Even the director stopped yelling and started listening. Anna began mentoring the young actress who decided to stay on set as an assistant director's trainee. She wanted to learn how to build stories, not just play them. Keanu, as always, arrived quietly and left quietly. But people noticed he smiled more now, on the final day of filming. The entire crew gathered for one last group photo. Anna stood in the center, Keanu beside her. Everyone clapped. No one knew what the movie would earn. No one knew how the reviews would go, but one thing was clear. Something good had happened. Here's something true. As Anna walked to her car that night, she saw a note tucked under her windshield. It was handwritten. No name, it said. You reminded me that being kind is brave. Thank you. Anna held it against her chest for a moment. She didn't know who wrote it, but in that quiet, she realized something. This story, the real one, was no longer just hers. The award no one saw coming to premiere night was colder than expected. A soft drizzle touched the red carpet. Flashes from cameras lit up the wet ground like stars caught in puddles. Anna stepped out of the car in a simple dress, not designer. Not loud, just something soft and elegant that made her feel like herself. Keanu stepped out from the other side. The crowd erupted, but neither of them smiled for the cameras right away. They stood side by side, silent for a moment, looking at the theater in front of them. You ready? Keanu asked softly. Anna nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. Inside the theater, the mood was electric. Fans, critics, producers, actors, assistants. Even some crew who never got invited to premieres were there tonight. The studio had changed their tone. Not just in words, but in action. They opened the screening to all levels of the production team. Every person who had helped bring the story to life was invited. Anna saw Maria from lighting in a black dress, holding her daughter's hand. She smiled. The movie began. Scene after scene played on the giant screen. Anna watched herself, but not with ego. She saw her character's pain, strength, fear, and quiet courage. It was like watching someone else entirely. She saw how the camera held longer on her eyes, how the music swelled just right when she stood silently in a doorway, how the audience didn't cough or whisper, they just watched. And when the final scene faded to black, the silence stayed for 2 full seconds. Then the entire room rose in applause. Anna didn't cry, but she felt something shift inside her, like a weight she didn't know she was carrying had finally lifted. After the screening, the director stood on stage. He looked different, smaller, humbler. "I want to start by saying I made a mistake," he said into the microphone. "And this film only exists in its truest form because people around me had the courage to do what I didn't." He looked toward Keanu and Anna. "This movie will always remind me that real strength isn't found in control. It's found in compassion." The room clapped again, not because he was perfect now, but because he finally understood. A few weeks later, award season began. The film, it's titled Quiet River, started getting attention, but not for box office numbers, for something else. Critics praised its emotional power. How every frame felt alive. How Anna's performance wasn't just acting, it was something more. She was nominated for several major awards, but she didn't think she'd win, she told Keanu. "It's enough just to be recognized. After everything, that's more than I hoped for," he replied. "Sometimes the world takes time to catch up to truth, but when it does, it remembers." The night of the biggest award show arrived. Anna wore the same necklace her grandmother had given her when she left Cuba, a tiny silver star, as she sat in the dark hall, surrounded by noise and lights. She felt strangely calm. Her name was announced. Best Actress. Keanu reached over and gently squeezed her hand. "Go," he whispered. She walked slowly to the stage. The clapping was loud, but all she heard was her heartbeat. She took the golden statue and stepped to the microphone. For a moment, she just breathed. Then she said softly, "I was told once that I didn't belong, that I wasn't right for the role, that I could be replaced." The room went silent, but someone stood up for me, not to make noise, not to start a fight, but to remind people that kindness isn't weakness. She looked toward Keanu. "This isn't just my award. It belongs to every person who stayed. Kind when the world told them to be cold. To every assistant, every crew member, every voice that was quiet until it mattered." She ended with a simple line. "Thank you for seeing me, for letting me stay." After the show, Anna stepped outside to breathe. The city lights blinked above her. Keanu joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You always bring coffee," she said with a laugh. "Old habit," he replied. They stood quietly. Then Anna turned to him. "You changed everything," she said. Keanu shook his head. "You changed yourself. Now just refuse to let them forget who you were." Anna looked up at the sky. "Do you think the industry really learned anything?" she asked. "Not all of it," he said. "But some people did. And that's how change starts. It's not loud, not fast, just real." She nodded slowly. "I want to do something," she said. "Start a program. For young actors who feel like they don't belong, give them support, protection, a voice." Keanu smiled. "I'll fund it." Anna blinked. "You will?" "Of course," he said, "but only if it's named after that coffee you always drink." Anna laughed hard. It's the first real laugh in weeks deal. 2 months later, the Quiet Strength Initiative was launched. Free classes, mentorship, mental health resources. Anna stood at the opening ceremony, standing not as someone who had been saved, but as someone who was now helping others rise young. Actors came up to her saying they followed her journey, that she gave them hope. She hugged every single one. And backstage, Keanu waited with 2 cups of coffee, same as always. The letter that changed everything. The Quiet Strength Initiative was only a few weeks old, but it already touched lives. Anna received messages daily from young actors, parents, teachers, people who felt seen for the first time. People who had almost given up before they heard her story, but one message came through the office mail that stopped her completely. It was handwritten, the envelope slightly torn. No return address. Inside was a letter. It said, "I was the intern who brought you coffee on your last week before you were replaced. You smiled at me and asked if I was okay. I wasn't, but no one else noticed. That day, I told myself I'd never work in this industry again. But when I saw what happened, when I saw you fight back with grace, when I saw him walk off set for you, something came back to life inside me. I just applied to film school, not to act, to write. Thank you for reminding me that there is still good here. Anna sat with the letter pressed against her chest for a long time. Meanwhile, Keanu was in a small studio 2 cities away doing voice work for a documentary. He had agreed to the project months ago, a film about kindness in unexpected places. After all that had happened, it felt like the right thing to return to. But between takes, his mind drifted. He wasn't thinking about Hollywood or scripts. He was thinking about how small actions create waves. How his choice to speak up for Anna had become something no one could have predicted. The studio assistant brought him a bottle of water and whispered, "Just wanted to say what you did." We all saw it. It mattered. Keanu just nodded. Quietly, Anna had a new idea. Something bold. She didn't want to just help actors anymore. She wanted to start a project that would reach behind the screen to the grips. The costume teams, the camera operators, the invisible hands that build every story but are rarely celebrated. She called Keanu late that night. He answered on the second ring. "Keanu," she said softly, "what if we made a documentary? Not about us, about them. The people behind the scenes. The ones who never get thanked." Keanu was quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "Let's do it." They called it The Unseen Hands. Anna and Keanu produced it quietly, with a small team, made up of people they had worked with over the years. No big studios, no scripted drama, just real stories, real people. They interviewed a sound engineer who had worked through chemo treatments because she couldn't afford to stop. They filmed a costume designer who had created magic with a needle and silence, never once appearing in a press release. They sat down with a janitor who had watched 3 generations of actors walk through the same studio halls and never once asked for recognition. Anna cried after almost every interview. So did some of the crew. As filming wrapped, something strange happened. The studio that had once replaced Anna reached out, again, not with a contract, but with an invitation. They wanted to screen the documentary in their largest theater. Anna was hesitant. "What if it's just for good publicity?" She asked Keanu. He replied, "Maybe it is. But the people we interviewed, they deserve to be seen. Even if the reason they're being seen isn't perfect," Anna agreed. The night of the screening, the theater was filled not with celebrities, but with workers, crew members, janitors, assistants, drivers, and their families. Many of them were nervous. Some hadn't worn formal clothes in years. Anna stood at the front, looking out over the room, heart pounding. "This isn't our film," she said into the mic. "This is yours." She just held the camera. The documentary played. When it ended, there was no standing ovation. Instead, something better happened. People hugged, cried, took pictures. Not of the actors, but of each other. Mothers took pictures of their sons and lighting crews. Wives hugged husbands who had spent decades building stages. Children looked up at their parents like they were superheroes. Keanu watched it all, quiet, and proud. Anna walked over and said, "This means more to me than any award." He nodded, because this time, we gave the spotlight away. A few weeks later, Anna received another letter. This one was from a studio executive, the same one who had replaced her, but someone higher. It said, "I want to talk about building something new, something honest, something real. I want your help." Anna didn't know what the future would look like, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was leading that weekend. Keanu and Anna met for breakfast. Same small cafe, same 2 cups of coffee. They sat by the window, watching the morning traffic pass. Anna smiled. "I think we're just getting started." Keanu raised his cup. "Then let's keep walking." The sunlight touched both their faces, and far beyond the noise of the world they'd once feared, something new was rising. The echo of Cannes. A year had passed. Not everyone noticed, but something had changed in Hollywood. A quiet shift. Like the moment before dawn when the light starts to return, Slow and soft, Anna stood on the rooftop of the Quiet Strength Initiative building. The sun was rising behind the city skyline. She breathed in deeply. Her life looked different now. She still acted, but less. Only the roles that truly meant something. The rest of her time was spent mentoring, guiding, and listening. Listening to the interns. Listening to the forgotten. Listening to the voices that had been pushed down for too long. Keanu had kept his promise too. He didn't just fund the program. He showed up quietly, without a spotlight. He visited classes, helped with camera training, taught young actors how to move with truth instead of ego. He called it passing the light. Anna called it being who he truly was. One afternoon, a young girl walked into Anna's office, maybe 19. Nervous. Clutching a notebook, she sat down, eyes wide. Anna smiled. "You okay?" The girl nodded. "I just wanted to say, my brother almost quit this industry. He was treated badly, called worthless. Then we watched your story and it changed him." Anna listened quietly. The girl continued. "He's now helping direct short films at his college, and I just got cast. In my first school play," she handed Anna a tiny charm, a star made of folded paper. "Thank you," she whispered. Anna held it in her hand for a long time after the girl left. Some things couldn't be measured in numbers or awards. This was one of them. Weeks later, the Unseen Hands won an International Humanitarian Award. Hollywood Prize came from a global arts organization that celebrated stories rooted in compassion and real life. Impact Anna and Keanu flew overseas for the ceremony. The room was filled with filmmakers from countries across the world. Many had made their first movies with broken cameras, borrowed scripts, or homemade costumes. As Anna stood on stage to accept the award, she felt something rise in her chest. Not fear, not pride, gratitude. "We tell stories to entertain," she said, "but sometimes we forget the power they carry. Stories don't just reflect the world, they shape it. And this one was shaped by a simple truth, that no one is ever truly invisible." She looked over at Keanu. He gave her the smallest nod. The crowd stood and clapped. After the ceremony, they walked along the quiet city streets. Anna said, "Remember when they replaced me?" Keanu looked at her. "I remember everything." Laughed. "I thought my career was over. But it was the beginning of everything that mattered." He replied, "Some storms don't destroy, they clear the path." Back in Los Angeles, the studio that once made that decision, the one to quietly remove Anna, had changed too. Not overnight, not completely, but change had begun. A new policy was created, anonymous feedback for all crew members, protection against silent replacements, a required notice and review process for any dismissal. They even invited Anna to help lead monthly creative integrity meetings. She accepted, not for revenge, for the future. On the anniversary of the Quiet Strength Initiative, Anna hosted a small event. No celebrities, just students, mentors, crew members, and families. There was music, laughter, and one small stage. She gave a short speech at sunset. "This place was built from a moment of heartbreak," she said. "But it grew because people chose to care, because one man chose to say no, and because many others followed with yes." She looked into the crowd, at Maria from lighting, at the young actress who had stepped away from her role with grace, at the sound engineer who now taught full dash time, at the girl who had given her the paper star, and finally, Keanu standing quietly at the back. "We began this journey with fear," Anna said. "We end it with hope." After the event, Keanu joined her on the rooftop again. They watched the lights of the city shimmer below. Anna turned to him and asked, "Do you think people really understand what we did?" He thought for a moment. "Maybe not all of them," he said, "but the right ones do, and they'll carry it forward." She nodded. "I want that, for it to keep going. Even when we're gone." Keanu raised his cup of coffee. "To what lasts." Anna clinked her cup against his. "To kindness." The story of Anna's replacement had once been a private pain. Now it was a legacy of light. Not because someone fought with fists, but because someone stood still. When the world moved too fast, and refused to let silence win. In the end, it was never about being famous. It was about being heard. And in that, they had won something far greater than any role. They had become the story.